The Baker's Gift. In the quiet town of Willowbrook, nestled between rolling green hills and a silver stream, stood Samuel's Bakery. The scent of fresh bread once drifted through the cobbled streets, drawing in townsfolk for morning coffee and warm pastries. But times had changed. Supermarkets had sprung up, and the once thriving shop now struggled to stay afloat. Samuel, a kind-faced man in his 50s, with flour-dusted hands, refused to give up. His grandmother had taught him the art of baking, and more importantly, the joy of giving. He still remembered sneaking out with her in the early morning to place loaves of bread on doorsteps of those who needed them most. Kindness, she'd say, is like yeast in dough. It rises and spreads. One evening, as Samuel counted his remaining coins, he glanced at the unsold bread. Instead of letting it go to waste, he wrapped a few loaves and quietly placed them outside the homes of those who struggled: the elderly widow on Main Street, the single mother with 3 children, and the young artist who barely made ends meet. The first ripple. The next morning, Martha, the widow, opened her door to find a warm loaf wrapped in brown paper. Tears welled in her eyes. She hadn't tasted fresh bread in months, not since her husband passed. That day, when she saw young Daniel, the town's aspiring painter, sketching on a park bench, she handed him a few coins, telling him to buy new paintbrushes. Daniel, surprised by the unexpected kindness, went to the general store, where he found Mrs. Thompson, the owner, struggling with heavy boxes. He set his things aside and helped her unpack. Touched by his generosity, Mrs. Thompson decided to do something kind in return. She gave a free meal to Lucy, the exhausted single mother who often skipped lunch to make sure her children had enough to eat. A town awakens. One act of kindness led to another. Soon, people in Willowbrook started holding doors open for strangers, lending a helping hand, and offering warm smiles to those who needed them. Even Mr. Grayson, the town's bitter and reclusive businessman, felt the change. He had spent years believing the world owed him something, but when he found a loaf of bread on his doorstep, something softened within him. That afternoon he saw little Emma, Lucy's daughter, shivering outside in a too-thin coat. Without thinking, he walked into the tailor's shop and bought a warm woolen jacket. The full circle weeks passed, and Samuel continued his secret deliveries. He never spoke about them, never sought thanks. But the town had noticed. One crisp December morning, as Samuel unlocked his bakery, he found a crowd gathered outside. Martha, Daniel, Lucy, Mr. Grayson, and countless others stood before him. In their hands were gifts, bags of flour, sugar, and butter, enough to fill his empty pantry. Daniel stepped forward, holding up a beautiful painting of the bakery, bathed in golden light. "This town was losing its warmth," he said, "but you brought it back." Tears filled Samuel's eyes. He had thought himself alone in his struggles, but kindness had found its way back to him. From that day forward, Samuel's bakery flourished, not just because of business, but because of the heart that now beat through Willowbrook. The town had rediscovered what his grandmother always knew. Kindness, like yeast, rises and spreads.